tomorrow night, sponsored by Student Government, so make sure you guys come back to the ballroom tomorrow evening for that as well. But we are very excited for tonight's TotalU program. This is a very special speaker, and I say special because this was a request from your student body, from students who have actually gone to a conference, listened to Dr. Franklin, and came back to campus and told Haley and myself, we've got to bring him here. More students need to listen to this message, and we know we'll have a big impact. And so, as an administrator, it was a very easy decision. Yeah, we're going to figure it out. So, we're really excited to have him here. But to read his introduction, I will now hand it over to Ms. Haley Doyle. Okay.
Haley, I can say it now. Thanks, Haley. Hello, everyone. Thanks for welcoming me to LSU A. I got the A. LSU A. I'm with you. Haley, thank you. All student government, thank you all. Dr. Abby, thank you for having me. Dr. Haley, thank you for having me. Dr. Paul, thank you for welcoming me. I appreciate it. Good conversation we had today. Great, so we're going to talk a little bit about it doesn't matter where you come from. I'm going to go through some slides pretty quickly because I really want to engage you. I really want to hear from you. I really want to talk with you. I think you'll know over time I'm a spiritual man. And so I just put that out there so you know that's the context, that's the framework with which I live. And I'll explain some of that too. But I'll say it in this context. I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe that my being here, your being here, is an accident. God knew from the beginning of time that we would have this conversation. So for me, I approach spaces where I sense purpose seriously. I don't take my time here as just some fluke. I don't take my time as just a check that I pick up. I take this serious because I'm speaking to God's people, His creation, about what He wants you to do, how to inspire you to go be servants, to go be leaders, to go impact the world. Friends, I could be back at Harvard, I could be back at Cambridge, but I'm taking this serious. And so I want you to take it serious, and I want to go through some slides because I want to help us really seriously understand some things about where we are. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to help you understand that. What matters is where you're going. I would ask all of you, especially students, if you have a plan. Why are you here? What purpose? Why do you get out of bed? Too many people get up, go through their day without a legitimate plan. We get to where we plan, what our purpose is. If I have no purpose, if I have no plan, I don't get anywhere. We move toward what we comprehend. We move toward what we think about. We move toward what we plan. So I have 4 kids. And I drive this home. I want you to have a plan. And I want you to journal it. And I want you to think about it. Because when you think about it, you capture it. And it moves inspires you. So when other people laugh at you and say you can't, you know in yourself, you know intrinsically in who you are, I can do that. Let them laugh, let them say what they want. I know my plan, I know my purpose, I'm going. And so you move, so it is. It's about where you're going. So sure as sunlight. I'd like to begin, because I'm going to put it again in some context. There's a student here in your care who may someday cure all cancer. That student, but you've got to lay the groundwork so that it can come to pass. We'll talk about that too. She's a child who hasn't blossomed, so you cannot see her brilliance. But as sure as there is sunlight, he is here now in this auditorium. I can't tell you what his name is, nor his height, nor his weight, nor color. Only that he potentially is a history-making class. See, friends, we discount people. We say this person, because of looks or background, or where they come from, or how they portray themselves, can't be somebody who's going to come up with a cure for cancer. We're all biased in some way. We all have a judgment about people, and we can so quickly say, there's nobody in this room, it's not you, it's not that, and you have no idea what God has put in any one of you to help you come up with a cure for cancer. I just don't, I'm friends, I fly, I'm going to know him on my right. I'm going to know him on my left. I have met so many people, I should show you my pile of cards, business cards that I picked up. They're no accident. They're none. You all go through life and you don't even introduce yourself. You don't say hello. You don't know who you meet. I remember I was on a plane and Reverend Ralph Abernathy sat next to me. And I said, oh my God, I don't know who that is. I'll tell you a little bit more about that one. How I really do. I'll tell you about that. I was on a plane again, and that's just been several times. But anyway, don't discount people. Don't discount the person sitting next to you. Don't discount anybody. This is my beginning. My parents were sharecroppers in Oklahoma. They picked cotton. I was born in this swallow. I tell students, in this period, there was really no such thing as low income. There was no such thing as poor. This was squalor. You know what was squalor? Is my parents, this is what they did all day, from sun up to sundown, on somebody else's land. That's why they call it sharecroppers. You are supposedly sharing somebody's land, but you work in that land. Black Americans in this period continued to live in poverty. Sharecropping kept them in de facto slavery. White landowners went bankrupt and forced blacks off their land. It wasn't their land. Slavery by another name, that's where sharecropping is. After the Civil War, from slaves saw jobs, planters saw laborers, the absence of cash, and independent credit system led to a creation of sharecropping. So my parents were constantly in debt. That's what kept them as sharecroppers, because the landowner would always say at the end of the year, you owe me a certain amount. And so to pay it off, you take more cotton. I don't remember anything much. Dr. Paul asked me if I picked. I don't remember any of that. I mean, most of the kids, we frolicked around, we played around. But there are things I do remember. I remember the big metal tub at the end of the week. You see, poor people, we took a bath once a week. And that water wasn't replaced. And so my dad had like 9 brothers and sisters. Everybody would take a bath, because that was the bath before Sunday morning church. Before we put on our, what we used to say, Sunday go to meeting clothes. You took a bath the night before. So the children like eating and like a lot of other things. Adults first and children last. Friends, what I remember, those vivid things, I remember how dirty that water was by the time it was for me to get in there. It looked like mud. Because that's what they were dirty. Simple. That's just what it was. Or you remember the outhouse. Late at night, I would not. I would hold it, or I would find someplace else, because I wasn't going down by the creek to go take care of my personal business. I remember the chickens pecking at our feet, because houses and the let's see, Louisiana, this part is probably not far from Kansas line, so warm in the summer, wouldn't you say? back in this period, houses were made really for inclement weather. You didn't go in the summer because it was too hot, and you only came in the winter because there were enough of you that you could pile around the stove and kind of stay warm. But chickens would peck at our feet when we were inside. I do remember that. But that's where I was born. That's my beginning. I was born in Colored People's Hospital. So from this conversation, because of the DEI work that I do, and Dr. Cooper does, I always like to make sure that I frame my conversations in some way that you begin to understand. Assume my good intent. My intent is not to hurt, not to offend. Assume my good intent. I'm going to try to give us some time that you're going to ask me questions. I'm going to assume your good intent. We begin with that. Lead it to discomfort. There's going to be some discomfort. I intend to make us uncomfortable, some discomfort, because I want to help us learn. And so there will be some of that. So lean into that. Don't be afraid of that. Practice mutual respect. If we have question and answer, check out the voices that are not present and represented. Speak humility and empathy. That's what I bring. I hope I bring that. I hope you sense that. Support each other as a family. This is an LSU family, community. Support each other that way. Friends, I have a button that I wear with me, and I know I've seen some. There was a group of students at Harvard just the other day. I walked into the gym, and these two brothers walked up to me, and they called me OG. And so I had to rush home and ask my kids, I have 4 kids, am I an OG? And they had to help me understand. I wear this. This isn't necessarily modern, hip, hop, culture language, but I so believe in it. If we can't figure out a way that we can be kind to each other, friends, I'm not sure all the DEI training and all the other work we do is going to get us there. So I ask you, kindness is our best gift tonight. Kindness is our best gift that you all are living here. And then finally, ensure that everyone leaves the conversation in a good space. I will stay here. If there are issues or questions, I will stay here because I want to make sure that we're all in a good space. Since this is Black History Month, I really like exposing the students, those that know and those that don't, of the fabulous creations. Sometimes we don't realize that lotions and soaps and printing press and envelope seals and laser fuels and pressure cookers, you all probably already know all this stuff. All this was created by African Americans. When you stop and think about the fact that a lot of manual labor was done by black people or slaves, then you say, well, that makes sense. Because they were the ones doing some of this work. Hairbrush, heating furnace, blimp, hand stamp, the list goes on and on. Look at Granville. We say that Alexander Graham Bell did the phone. There's clear documentation that Granville Woods was doing the work, and Alexander Graham Bell got credit for it. And there are lots of other stories just like that. That there were black people in the labs doing work, doing things, so they didn't get the credit for it. So you go through ice cream. Come on, Augustus. Now that's the sound. Potato chips not up there, but you begin to understand they were the cooks. They were the ones doing the work. So why wouldn't we have ice cream? Why wouldn't we have potato chips? And then you look at modern day pacemaker, space shuttle. I think some of you saw the movie. What was the 3 Black Women? Got it. I mean, you get it. And then I pause for a moment. And I hold this dear to me forever. I really do. If God is for us, who can be against him? I used to be a Protestant pastor, and I use this a lot. Because I need to inspire my urban church to think above and beyond the racism and the crap in our country. If God is for me, there's nothing you can do to keep me from accomplishing all that he has for me. There's nothing. I am so convinced of that. Here is a boy who was born in squalor, who now finds himself at Harvard University. Help me. Help me put that picture together. So the rest of my story, my parents left Kansas and left Oklahoma and moved to Kansas. In the 50s, there was a great migration from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, to Wichita, Kansas, because Beach, Boeing, Learjet, Cessna were all housed there. And black folks were leaving the country to go work at the aircraft industry. And my parents wanted to do that, but they didn't get there. Did land a job there. I graduated from high school, went to Kansas State University. I went to Kansas State because I'm the oldest of 7, and my dad wanted in-state tuition. And he knew he had 6 others, and he said, "You're not going out of state, can't afford it, we're going to stay." So it was either KU or K-State. And K-State came up with a better package. You know, I'd have gone to KU if they came up with a package, but K-State came up with one that was better. In fact, K-State came up with one for about 299 of my other friends. They did a real push that year to make sure they go after African American and Latino students, and I was one of those. I arrived, and K-State was not ready for us, which is a lot of campuses. I mean, they were not. They just thought we could put out a shingle, we could put out an advertisement, we could go recruit, but culturally, the campus system was not ready for us. And that first year was absolutely horrible to go through 3 roommates my first week of school, and to have Caucasian kids from Western Kansas. If you know anything about Western Kansas, probably some of the community in Louisiana have never had been around black people, and want to come up and touch my kicking afro. Yeah, it's hard for you to imagine. I had hair on my shoulders. I mean, I had a kicking afro, y'all. And those Caucasian young men would want to come up and touch it because they've never been around that. Or they want to know if my skin would rub off because they heard that when you took a towel it would rub off. I mean, some of the most asinine questions, and I'm not exaggerating to you one bit. I'm 18 years old, I'm trying to process this level of ignorance, but in some ways, a desire to learn, a desire to hear, and a desire to grow. I stayed. I wanted to get my A out of there as fast as I could, but I stayed. I stayed, one, because I knew my alternative. My partners back at home were on street corners, and there just weren't many opportunities. And so I stayed because what else was I going to do? Where else do I got to go? So I'm the kind of guy, I'm going to make where I am work. You know, it's just all that intense stuff that I was talking to you about. So I got highly involved. I joined student government my sophomore year, and I turned that world upside down. You know why? You can't have me here and then not represent me. You can't have me here and not hear my voice. I'm just not going to be that way. You going to hear Bernard with his kicking afro? That's just how it was, y'all. But I didn't stop there. There's a yearbook, 2000, well, whatever, not even 2000, it was 1970 something. 2 pages spread, and the title of the yearbook, 2 pages, is The Overachiever. Today I look back at it and I'm hurt, I'm somewhat insulted. Not that they did the story, but I'm hurt and insulted by Bernard. You see, I got involved in everything. During that period, I was the leader or president of 5 organizations at one time. The yearbook staff, the newspaper staff, vice president for student government, president of the Black Student Union, in organizations that took an enormous amount of time. I didn't really party. We did the bump back then, you know. I didn't really party because I didn't have time. But you know what? I look back now, and I have a counseling side background, master's and PhD. You know what I was looking for? I was looking for my father's affirmation. You see, those people who were picking cotton only to survive. There wasn't a family system. There wasn't some conversation about how we live as a family. My father got nothing from his father. My father passed on 0 to me. In fact, what I heard from my father was how inadequate I was. He didn't use that word. I heard I would never amount to anything. I wasn't worth a nickel. I tried to change the oil. I never did it right. I tried to change the tire. I never did it right. I was valedictorian in my high school. My favorite teacher came to behind probably went after your graduation to a graduation party. I left home to go to my party. I got to the parking lot and I couldn't go inside. I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. I had represented my dad to the best of my ability, and my dad couldn't just 1 second reach out his hand and say, son, I love you, I admire you, I respect you. Nothing. So that fueled me unconsciously to do a lot, to hear the words, he has worth and he has value. Now, I probably still have some of that in me now. I still deal with workaholism, if you will, perfectionism. I still deal with some of that. But I know my limitations. You know, I know my challenges, and I know where it comes from. I know where it's brought from. So we'll move on. I become student body president at K-State. And in 1975, I will give you that. It's considered one of the first African Americans on a predominantly Caucasian campus. ABC, CBS, NBC flew to Manhattan, Kansas, out of the African American. At that time they called us black, out of the black boy in K-State to become president. My mom called me the next morning. I never heard from my dad. I've had to process a lot of that period, that work, doing my own. And so part of it, for any of you in the room who have similar or have other issues related, we can't heal. We can't move forward. It requires honesty, hard work, and just grit to say, I'm going to get to the other side. I send my dad a check every month. I call my dad often. I love my dad. He gave me roof. He gave me food. He gave me a place to sleep. Emotionally, I have 3 biological sons. They get all of me and as much of me as they can because I know what it feels like not to have your father's heart. Now, I'm away from them, but they still get me. My second oldest son just had triplets. He called before I left last night, showed me pictures of him embracing his little son. And I know what he's doing. He's showing me what I have done for him. Cycles can change. Doesn't matter where we start. Doesn't matter where we come from. It's where you get. You can change the cycles in your family. So I say all that because God is for Bernard. What can anybody do? What can you say? How can you respond? So I show up every day as who I want to be. And that is living in gratitude for life. Grades on have every opportunity to be frustrated, to be in pain. I lost my mother. 9 months later, I lost my best friend. My wife was my best friend. I say that to students and the people, they look at me kind of, I don't think you understand, not all of us, some of us understand marriage relationships that are friends. My wife and I dated. Our honeymoon was 4 weeks. She'd never been snow skiing, so I took her to Steamboat Springs, Colorado. We went to St. Augustine, Florida for a week. We went to Disney, not to do all the big stuff, just to hang. And I took her home with my family for Thanksgiving. We waited to have children because I wanted her. But we had no idea that down the road that would be our end. I have every reason to be angry and to be upset, but that's not who I am. I know where I'm going. I know I have purpose, and I know in suffering. You with me? Okay, so why are you here? Why do you work in this space? What do you hope to get from this campus experience? Are you here because you're forced to be here or for other reasons? And do you have a passion for this work? I just ask all of you that. But you need to ask yourself, you need to respond before you go to bed tonight. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? I know too many students, one of the reasons I'm at Harvard, I know too many students with 60, 70, 80, $150,000 debt from their college experience, black and white. And I'm saying, what in the hell are we doing in America? Debt loading young people before they even graduate. You can't get a car when you graduate. You can't even buy a house. You don't have a mortgage capability to do that. I think America is doing young people a great disservice. And so I ask you, why are you here? Why are you writing out that FAFSA? Why are you asking your parents for a plus loan? Why are we going through all that? You got C's. Stay with me. Why are you here and you got D's? Stay with me. If you're in debt, you should have straight A's. That debt should be for some reason, some purpose. And so I say to students, why am I here? Why are you here? So I challenge you. The world is changing exponentially. Why this is not an accident? Because I see how God worked mysteriously to create a way for me to get to Harvard. I wish I had time to go through that. I was telling Dr. Paul, I'm at a place where Harvard is surrounded by cranes. There are buildings going up all over Cambridge. The world, China, Japan, Switzerland are making contracts with Harvard around life sciences. Cures for every disease known to man, and they're working it really well. But also, we're coming to understand, and I was saying this earlier, that while we have slumbered and been away from each other because of COVID, technology has not taken a rest. And so robotics has pushed ahead, and so our world will be robotic, built, and driven. So all of your major jobs, whether it's Amazon, robots are in the back, because a lot of workers did not come back. Fast food is about to wipe out college and high school students because they can quickly put in a machine to do the drink. And you've already seen some of them. They have the kiosk when you walk into McDonald's and you order right there, you put in your card, and that's it. We're moving toward that. AI will take over much of our thinking and much of our ability. So I just need you to understand you don't have much room for C's and D's. And in that, in a world that's changing exponentially, you don't know exponentially? Can we talk? If you don't know some words, I will give y'all some paper. So you can write down what later and look up exponentially. Life is changing in dramatic ways and quickly. So the challenge for higher ed is for the first time, and maybe not the first time, we're carrying students to a future we cannot clearly describe. And you can't money. But we can't clearly describe where you're going. And what really is going to be your job. Many organizations are undergoing strategic planning. And y'all, if you think this whole discussion about voting redistribution is simply because the Republicans want to keep you wrong. People are trying to hold on to wealth. We're studying it. I'm just trying to tell you. The whole issue, where's my friend? The whole issue with Russia. Talk to me. International studies. The whole issue with Russia is trying to position itself against America and Chinese economy. We're sitting here, isolated as we are, and all this major strategic planning and significant reorganization is being had. Power shifts, people trying to grab and hold on. Shifts in global economic and political power. So these are the desired patterns. This is what Harvard and others are talking about that they want from students. Or the employers are saying. Flexibility, critical thinking, creativity, innovation, resiliency, accountability, and leadership. Where do you see grades? And in fact, in some places, they're not even asking for an undergraduate degree. I take a course called The Future of Work. I know it's a lot, but I just wanted you to see it. See the middle paragraph? Companies such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, and others are no longer requiring a bachelor's degree for new hires. They're hiring based on skills. Students who come from high school with coding background, they can get in to any one of those companies with a coding background. They're hiring based on skills, not a degree. New and disruptive pathways for youth to acquire these skills must be developed. So part of what I was trying to look at is how can we move juniors and seniors from high school to these jobs? Because if we don't figure this out, the underclass of the future is described by sociologist Dennis Gilbert. Those of you that are in sociology, social science, you want to read this book, you want to study him, will be the most disenfranchised socioeconomic demographic the world has ever seen. You see, America has never seen poverty. We've not seen poverty like Sao Paulo. We've not seen poverty like many of the other countries around the world. We're about to see that if I can inspire you and others to make sure you stay focused. 60% of the new jobs haven't been invented yet. Bitcoin, you hear this. Printing, hot business in China. China's making a killing in this movement. America, we've not quite gotten there yet, but China's really working it. Drones. Dr. Paul, I would probably be looking or considering a drone program. I don't know if there's one in the state. Oh, okay, fine. Forget it. Take a look at this. We're going to discuss it in a few minutes. Many here are smiling, but I imagine the younger ones have never even seen this or heard of the Jetsons. The adults are smiling because they've heard it. They probably watched it every Saturday morning. Why would I show you that clip? Come on, man. Why would I show that clip? Yeah. You've been with me. Your eyes say to me, I'm with that man. I'm listening to him.
We're the Jets. This generation.
Yeah. But why? Tell me why I would present this to you. What in that clip, if we were to play it out, would tell you something, show you something?
That's the direction we're moving in.
It's the direction we're moving in. Who's influencing it?
AI.
There are some names.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, Bezos.
Bezos. Amazon, Apple, Google.
Tell me some more about it. Who else? What you might remember from it. Adults, you can play this game too. Come on, think with me. Did you see any people of color? No. If you have time tonight, go get the clip on YouTube. Play it. You will never, ever see in Jetsons the movie people of color. Friends, people say that cartoons imitate life. The stories can imitate life. We're talking all this that I've been describing to you, intentional or not intentional. A group of people are saying global warming is at a place where it might not be, we might not be able to turn it around. And so the thinking of the wealthy, the thinking of the wealthy is how do we get someplace else? And then how do we leave behind this underclass group that I was talking about? I'm dropping a lot out there. And I wish I could be with you tonight or tomorrow when you're processing this in your groups or your organization. But friends, I am so passionate about this. I'm leaving my grandbabies to be in Harvard to have a conversation about how I can help make sure people who look like me don't get left behind on a planet. We don't think far ahead. Other people are thinking. So mindset. How many readers I have in you? You don't read, hold on. Read books other than what professors have directed you to read. I want this in your library. I might suggest some others. This book on mindset, how we can learn to fulfill our potential. Carol Dweck is the bomb. This book you need to have. She talks about parenting, business, school relationships, but she frames it in a new psychology. She's in and out of Harvard with there's this new psychology, new positive psychology about helping people. In fact, there was a professor in the Harvard Kennedy School this past Friday who just packed out an auditorium. We couldn't get in because he has a new book on positivity. It's a whole new mindset. And we got to figure out how to get there. So I'm going to go through some skills that I want to help you all adopt. Can we talk? I think college students have far too much drama. What I mean by that is far too much stuff that doesn't matter. That go on in your world and your life. It doesn't matter. See, when I'm done, I would be having some conversations about some of the things I'm talking about. Your world will be impacted unlike anything I can even imagine by robots. And you sit and you hear this and you go on about your business, and then in 10 years something will happen and you go, that ballhead man's not talking about this. Yeah, I can say it, it's me. Yeah. Too much drama, just far too much. What she has on, who he's dating, where they've been. I mean, stuff, I hear it, it's like, why? I want y'all to be rule breaking. I don't mean go and break legal rules. There are rules that we have as people. There's a lot. I just don't have time. My younger brother was Martin Luther King III's roommate at Morehouse. My third brother. Not the one who passed, but my third brother. He defied Dad. He said, I'm not staying in Kansas. I want my own thing. Dad wouldn't take him. I love my dad. But Dad just had issues. You know, because he could have embraced his son and wanted to go to Morehouse. He could have. But he said no. And brother called me. We get to Morehouse. And on his residence hall door is the name Martin Luther King III. Now, Brent, I told you where I come from. Didn't I tell you that? I come from nothing. There's no reason my brother should get Dr. King's son as a roommate. But he did. We go inside. Martin, we have this conversation. Martin says, don't call me Martin, call me Marty. Personal. We get on a personal basis real quick here. Marty says, don't stay in a hotel, stay with my mom and my little sister Bernice. Well, friends, I'm not giving up an opportunity. I check out the hotel and I stay with Coretta Scott King on Sunset Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. And because I was going quickly, I was going to stay a weekend. I stayed one entire week because I had questions to ask this woman about somebody that was bigger than life. Bigger than a hero. I mean, this guy he was it. Mrs. King asked me, what did I want to be? She's the only one I told. Because if I told people from Wichita, Kansas, that I wanted to be president of the United States, you know what they would have said to me? There's nothing, what good can come out of Kansas? And you little, whatever, what? And so I've always had this rule-breaking mindset. I'm going to do things that other African-American men or women don't do, won't do, can't do. Because there's nothing that white Caucasian people own that I can't participate in. I don't have a mindset that this is theirs and this is mine. I ain't there. So what I'm saying, I want some of y'all to break some rules in here. I want some women to bust some ceilings. I want you all to think bigger than the capacity you're thinking. Because we talk about a world that's being reshaped. There's room for all of you who want to think beyond where you are. Break some rules. I think Dr. Paul would allow y'all to have some creative way that you look at extending a major, partnering with an outside agency, doing something creative. I think that's where higher ed is how can we extend the classroom to begin to talk about some of these areas that I've just mentioned to you all. So break some rules. Let's have some conversations about how we do things differently. You can't see it here, but entrepreneurial is not about being an entrepreneur in the sense of starting a business. Entrepreneurial is seeing a problem and wanting to fix it. I want you all to think about how is AI going to impact your world and how can you impact it by responding to it. Don't be people who just sit in classrooms and regurgitate what you hear. Process it. Think about it. Push back on it. Professors are strong enough, capable enough that they can push back with you. And then you come to a place where everybody's trying to create something. Everybody's seeing something. These are the kinds of things that happen at Harvard. And I'm saying this can happen in Kansas. This can happen in Louisiana. With that pushback. And we're all thinking about how do we respond to all the issues before us and we become entrepreneurial. I want y'all to be self-educated. Friends, you have in your hand, everybody hold the phone. You have in your hand the best self-educating tool. But I bet if I took a survey, an online survey of all of your search engines, there would be very little to no education in your search. You, drama kings and queens, search stuff that doesn't matter. I give you a word, and what I would do if I were you, I would have already had a search of what exponential is on my cell phone. Be self-educated. Read. Friends, if you really want to know something, ask me for my business card when I'm done, and I'll send you a lot of this current research that's coming out of Harvard about all this technology. Be happy to. All of y'all that have issues and attitudes about race, you get to somebody like Cambridge, and you're going to be offended quickly. Because no culture owns the intellect at Cambridge. No culture owns robotics. No culture owns IT. No culture owns... Y'all got to learn how to bond with people who don't look like you, talk like you, and act like you. Y'all got to learn that quick. We got to quit being Caucasian over here and African American over here and this group over here. Because when you get to a company, you just got to learn how to bond. Bonding does not mean that we always agree. Bonding just simply means that we're going to bond. We're going to be friends. We're going to come together somehow, some way. Imaginary, let's reimagine our world. I don't want to leave nobody on the earth. In fact, I don't want to leave nobody behind. And I've been pushing. Why does Elon Musk and all those guys, why do we got to talk about going into space right now? Why can't we have this conversation about how we slow down climate change? I'm not ready to give up the earth. I'm not ready for people sending, they're not sending, when they talk about billions of dollars going, I want y'all to be visionary. Be visionary even about LSU-A. Where can LSU-A go in 5 years? You all hear me talking about all this, and you all are here in a great area, great location. But how can you pressure faculty, pressure administration to say, where are we at on? Don't just be consumers. Be part of the process. Be visionary. Let's just work this thing. Oh, bro, I was at Texas last weekend. There's so much I want to say about this one. There's just so much I want to say. We are balancing, friends, just so you know, almost equal. The number of African American men in prison and the number of African American men who are in college. The current number is below because African American men have, in COVID, dropped in enrollment. That bra and bras that look like me are concerned for me because the community can't survive on the backs of black women. Poor people can't survive. So we got to figure out how to get this thing done. And then we go here. I'm pausing. I'm making a shift. You all hear about this? How does this happen in America? How does this happen in COVID? This is why I need to sit. I need to talk with you all. Like a friend, like a mentor. We're at a space in COVID where young people are really struggling as we talk about all this change and all this shift. I was on a father-son trip to the Sierra with my son. And I knew I had a height issue. I didn't know I had a height issue as bad as I do. They had to strap me on a gurney to drop me down the mountain. I can't begin to think how a woman on the 26th floor of an apartment building in New York City decides that's the way that she's going to respond to serious depression. I'm making a shift, right? You all know people on this campus, women and men, who are depressed, who've changed their moods, changed their style, changed their behavior. I was going to ask you all on a piece of paper to write down for me if you needed help. And I was going to figure out with Haley how we got you help. But you have one counselor and a number of others who would really work to help. I don't want to overload that system. But friends, don't leave here without a plan. I don't know what happened here. She's a biracial woman. This is my biracial daughter. And my daughter has taught me a lot about bullying from both sides. My daughter has felt like after her mom died, she didn't have a place in the world. I think a mother would help her figure out her place as women. So I've had to learn how to support a girl who doesn't feel she feels at home in African American culture or Caucasian culture. I have no idea why the other woman committed suicide, but I need to tell you I almost lost my daughter after her adopted mom died. So this is personal for me. This is real personal. I would ask you to stop bullying, to stop teasing, to stop doing whatever you might think is not offensive or not whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But I know that my daughter struggles in this space, in this world. And you can see there's no reason why she would. She's a beautiful woman, very attractive, but she has me. We texted a few minutes ago. But it's a cruel world. The other piece here, I ask you women, are you ready to heal? Are you ready to take care of yourself? Are you ready to get your voice and speak your truth? Let's imagine on the other side, because there's been a number of men behaving badly stories, even the prince or whatever his title was in England, was accused of some offensive behavior. I don't know what the former Miss USA's issues were, but let's just say that sexual assault or anything of that nature could have played into it. I don't know the history here, women, but I certainly want to speak to you all about finding your voice and saying to the men here, if there's a challenge here, this stops, this ends. And you helping men confront that issue, that LSUA want you to say that to yourself. I choose to heal. And I want you to find the resources on campus and wherever to do that. And if we're at a place where we can't, find a way that you can express it so it doesn't happen again. If you have shut it down because the system appears to you to be one where you won't get justice, by the way. And if I'm not speaking to you, but you know someone, you take that message to them. It's time to heal. It's time for us to make LSU a place for everyone. I will let go of my worries. I will focus my energy only on what I can control. This is my message to all of us coming out of COVID. There's just so much out there. Self-care is critical. And so here's some issues that I want us to focus on. Sleep. College students don't get enough of it. Drink plenty of water. I have spent the last 5 years supporting my daughter coming to understand the brain and neuroscience. Our brain sits in a little sack of water. Without water, it can't function. It can't light up. It can't connect. We are a dehydrated culture. All of us in this room drink more non-water. You think because you had a Gatorade or you had something else that media has told you has potassium and has all this other stuff that's supposed to give us energy and blah, 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 blah. Our bodies require water, pure water. I want you to drink more water. In fact, there's apps that will tell you, remind you that you need to drink water. Please, just think about it. And those of us in this room who are caffeine addicts, I'm talking to adults, we got to figure out how to role model to our students why drinking water is important. I've noticed in my daughter, and I have to confess in myself, better functioning when I drink more water. There are people in this room who've already gotten an attitude about me saying it. And I get it, I understand. Kick back. I said we're going to lean into discomfort, but we have to. We need to drink more water. Nutrition, I just want to encourage y'all. Watch the carbs, watch the fat, try to find a balance. Vitamin supplements aren't all bad. And then reduce alcohol, caffeine. That's just your self-care. The other piece, try to find a routine way that you can get your own counseling and own support. So brothers, you know I couldn't get away from having a conversation with you. My master's, my PhD counseling site, my whole research area is on men. I have a private practice. I was therapist for the Kansas City Chiefs with Marty Schottenheimer, Gunther Cunningham, and Dick Vermeil. I think I know men. So let's talk for a minute. And we don't have these conversations enough about men behaving badly. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with men who tell me they can't perform with their girlfriend or their wife because their stimulation comes from porn. I can't tell you the number of men who in their 30s have ED, erectile dysfunction, and they need to go get Viagra because they masturbate too often. I said at the Catholic college that I was at, I wish we could shut down the internet at certain times of the night and evening, but we can't, we couldn't. Men, I want to say to you, you set yourself up for behavior when you allow yourselves to become addicted to porn. And please understand, this is not a casual conversation I'm having with you. Porn is more addictive than heroin. Porn is more addictive than some of the worst drugs on the market because it locks your brain into accepting pleasure in ways that you can't fully comprehend or understand. Again, seek counseling support. Find a way. There are groups springing up all over campus, all over the country. Sex Addicts Anonymous. Don't laugh, please. I want to get men help because we got to stop this. And what drives me is the young woman who committed suicide, but also my daughter. I bought my daughter a necklace. she lives in D.C. and I moved to Boston. One of the things I just couldn't dramatically think about was leaving her, knowing that as beautiful as she is, what could happen. So she has a necklace that just looks like any other charm. And on the back of it, she pushes a button and ADT finds her immediately. It's disgusting to me that I had to buy that for my daughter. But I live in a culture where men behave badly. And so I'm saying to you men, the campus I was just at, I created a male organization, and I do it at every campus I work with. Because I'm not going to have these conversations just with women and then not hold my men accountable as well. Men of distinction. And we talked. We got dirty talk about porn, about male behavior, about how we keep it together, all kinds of things. At Kansas State, the guys wanted to call the group Just Guys. Just because that was what they were wanting to work toward, being just, but they saw themselves as guys, not quite men yet, so just guys. Women, I don't know where you all are with forming a group for support for women, but part of your voice is saying to the brothers in the room and the brothers on campus, if we're going to do our work, we want you to do your work as well. And so men in this room, I'm challenging my SGA, I'm challenging all of you to find a way that we do this. So what hinders you? What hinders us from being our best? Fear, anxiety, a whole host of things. So this is what I started with. There's a child here and you're caring. I presented this to you at first. Dr. Paul, I present this now to you and to your staff. There's a child here and you're caring, and in the staff that you have here, who may someday cure all cancer. But you and your staff have to lay a groundwork so that it can come to pass. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen just because we want it. We need to encourage a healthy process where all of our students grow and heal. Friends, I'm beyond my time. I wanted to go 45 minutes to give you time for Q&A. I will remain here. We can have Q&A, but I recognize we've gone over. I am passionate about my work, as you may be able to tell, I'm not sure. But I'm happy to be here with you. I'll stop now and not go any further. What questions, what comments, what thoughts do you have? Understand my intent, and I'll recognize your intent.
Y'all can ask questions. Any questions or comments?
What does my daughter do? My wife died of breast cancer. My daughter's degree is in criminal justice from Mount St. Mary's University, which is a whole other story about how we stayed together so that she could get her college degree, because she was as depressed as that young woman. She went, I don't know how, online, Indeed, I think it was, and found a job at a mammography center in downtown D.C. So she called me and she said, Dad, what do you think about me working at a mammography center? You know mammography? Okay. She's serving women who may have breast cancer or in the process of being tested for breast cancer. There's not a more incredible way for a girl to honor a woman who died, her mother. So again, it's one of those instances where I see there are no accidents. She gets to serve. What she said to me was, Dad, I think I understand what these women are going through, remembering what my mom did. And so she's there, and she'll call me and say, Dad, I'm crying with another patient, because she's such a caring, giving young woman, and she knows what they're experiencing. So she's at my market center in downtown DC. Yes. Yes. What advice would you give students to be leaders instead of followers? I thought I did a pretty good job of saying, break rules. Don't be locked into only things that have you've been called to do? What do you feel like you've been placed on the earth to do? And pursue the heck out of it. Don't let anybody detour you. Don't let anybody make you feel you can't do it. Step in. See, I don't have this concept that leaders are born. I think leaders take risks and step into it. I think even people who say I'm introverted, when my wife died, I did intensive counseling in Denver. And my counselor said, I want you to go back to your hotel room and take the Myers-Briggs. Now, I've taken the Myers-Briggs many times. But I went back because he said, I want you to be honest with Bernard. Each one of those questions, I mean, I'm bawling my eyes out. Now I need to be honest. My score came out so high introverted. I had functioned as an extrovert because much of my culture, much of your culture is extroversion. I was a kid, wanted to hide in corners to read, but I pushed myself to be loud and boisterous like a lot of my extroverted African American family. I'm saying find your voice, find who you are, and leaders can be introverts. I'm a leader, but understand what Myers-Briggs means. It's where you get your energy. As a leader, I get my energy from going back to my hotel room tonight and sitting in my hotel room being replenished. There are other people who get their energy by this. You all are depleting me. My container will be depleted when I get back home. But I know Bernard, I know myself, I know my leadership style. My leadership style is to give, to pour out. But then I got to replenish. I got to fill it back up. And so how I fill it back up is to go back. I believe in meditation. I learned, I converted to the Catholic Church. One of the reasons I converted to the Catholic Church was because they taught me meditation. I was quiet. You know how I really got there? Sojourner Truth. You know what she told Frederick Douglass? I never lost a passenger. Frederick Douglass looked at her and said, what do you mean? And she said, I could hear God in the wind. I could hear him in the crickets. I could hear him as the water went through the creek. In some ways, as a people, we've lost the ability to be quiet like our ancestors, to hear God in cruelty, to hear God in shame, to hear a God that couldn't touch or feel. He was there. We've lost that ability. And so for me, I want to go back and get that. Because there are days and times I need to know He's with me. And loud noise just doesn't help me. I love gospel music. I love. There are times I just want to be quiet. I fills up my soul. I can go back and give. Long answer. Yes.
I want to thank you for so many different things that you said and for challenges that you challenge people, and tell you that I am the counselor on campus and that I don't think there's anyone in this room that doesn't know that free counseling is available, but I see a few faces out there I don't know, so I'm going to shamelessly plug.
No,
that-
you're not shameless.
Thank you.
I think every campus in America is struggling with high levels of mental health.
We are. They are.
And so however you can get them, shameless or not,
Thank
I
you.
want you to get them.
So we have, we are doing a women's group next week, February 23rd. The first one is at the Art Center, and I have one spot left. And we're doing one the following week that's not just women, and I have one spot left. So thank you for putting that out there for me.
You all hear that? Yes, sir.
You had to pick one person in the generation today who most speaks the message similar to yours. Who would it be and why?
In this generation today,
in the same age group as the majority of the college students that are in this auditorium. Academic athletes.
my voices have preceded us. There aren't many people that I read today that fill my cup. I get life from the ancient voices who know the depth of despair, who know the depth of pain, who know how to find quiet spaces, who know meditation, contemplation. You see, I just don't get caught up in the loud noises, the tinkling cymbals. There's a lot of bells and whistles that are going on right now. That just doesn't feed me. That's just, so I recognize my uniqueness. That's why I pause to think to myself, do I want to share that with you or let you know? But I read a lot of the ancients. There is a book that I have here today, The Breath of the Soul, Reflections on Prayer by Joan Chittister. This nun teaches, it's just incredible. But like I said, we have to find what speaks to our soul, what gives us breath and life, and then we find it. So again, a long answer. Martin Luther King, but he precedes us. Desmond Tutu, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, they precede us. And I don't know that I see at the same level that depth of social justice and that depth of commitment. And so it's hard for me to say on the current landscape, unless I just really stop and think about it tonight, that there are those people that I would say that.
So, with your Harvard and Cambridge. Another question, what university do you believe has, or in terms of social justice, would be a good example for us in here to look into? You talked about the farming groups and farming specific groups for men, for women, the list, I don't know, and what group, or in specifically the topic of social justice, and what campus could we look up and use sort of as a template or inspiration or learn from or feel as if we could find our voices from?
We met outside, and you helped me understand my LinkedIn account is hijacked.
I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't do that on
I'm
purpose.
just asking you, who are you?
I'm just somebody.
Just a curious.
I'm just somebody who wants to learn about it.
I don't know that I would say any American higher education institution would be number one on my list. I recognize I'm at an institution that was created for Caucasian men. But I also recognize Harvard, or I wouldn't be there, has apologized almost daily for neglecting social justice to the degree that they're working it today. It's sad that George Floyd's death and those deaths that followed sparked a lot of change in places like Harvard and other institutions. In many ways, it's almost unforgivable in a way. But why I'm there, Harvard said to me specifically, if you can help us figure out how to get more kids of color to living wage jobs will open resources to you and our network and our alumni. And so that said to me, though you have hundreds of years of suppression and neglect, you recognize that you need to change, and you're willing to bring a boy from Swaller to help you figure out how to get that done. So I can do that. I can be at Harvard knowing its history. But I can't tell you about Mass U, about MIT. I can only tell you about Harvard because I've had that conversation with Harvard's administration. And that's why I'm there. I wouldn't have gone if Harvard hadn't owned some of its great discretions. But beyond that, I can't tell you about Princeton. I can't tell you about Yale. I can't tell you about Pennsylvania. I can't tell you about the Ivy League, the rest of it. I can tell you that. I'm keeping you all, but if you want to stay here, I'm willing. Good conversation. Thank you. You're deep, man. You're deep. What else? Any other? Thank you. You've been most kind.